Halloween. The Halloween special is one of the most important traditions in cartoon history. It's that magical time of year when we get to watch stories that we wouldn't normally get to see. When the animation looks cooler and the music gets creepier, it's a chance for shows to break away from the norm and do something spooky, something weird, something magical, like getting Butters to say the N-word.
Well, damn, there's gotta be some way.
And so you see, in order to honor this holiest of traditions, I've decided to rank every single South Park Halloween special from worst to best. And no, I won't be including episodes like Night of the Living Homeless or Dawn of the Posers because those aren't real Halloween episodes, even though these corporate top 10 lists are all doing it for some reason. Because this video is just for the Halloween purists. And to show you how serious I am, I'm gonna skip my usual rambly intro format and just get straight into the rankings. Starting now. Let me just start by saying that this will probably be a very controversial pick for a bunch of you, and it might piss you off. But let's face it, you're now in the hands of someone who's made an entire video defending the Pip episode, which, as you know, means that my opinions are very deep, very intelligent. Because when it comes to South Park, it, I'm just stalling. The episode is Hell on Earth 2006.
Nobody can look hotter than me. It's my Super Sweet 16 Halloween party. Take it off, Zazul.
Honestly, I don't know if this is one that people love or hate, because it's got the Biggie Smalls thing, which is obviously iconic, but I barely ever see people talking about it. This episode parodies the MTV series My Super Sweet 16, only instead of a birthday thing, it's Satan throwing a massive Halloween party while acting like a spoiled brat the whole way through. And yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I never watched My Super Sweet 16, mostly because I'm not a vagina that watches reality shows. I'm more of a emotionally sensitive vagina that cries at the Last Airbender cartoon. So I don't know if this is just because I haven't seen the show that they're parodying, but I find that the storylines in this episode get old very fast. Unlike most South Park episodes, which have an A and B plot, this one actually has 4 sub-stories going on at the same time. There's Satan being a spoiled brat about his party, Biggie Smalls trying to reach the party in time, the Three Stooges parody with Dahmer, Bundy, and Gacy, and the Catholic Church people trying to sneak into the party or shut it down. So you get these 4 sub-stories that each have a funny premise, that each have their own running joke, but that also don't get enough time to actually do anything interesting, other than of course the main story, which is about Satan being a brat.
It's not the car I wanted! The whole party's ruined!
It doesn't matter, your guests are having fun, they don't care!
It's not about them! It's all about me!
Now, the main story gets the most attention, and it even has a nice little moment at the end where Satan learns his lesson, but you see, the problem is that it's kind of just mid. Satan acting like a spoiled teenager is a little funny, but it's not a strong enough joke to carry an entire A-plot, and it doesn't make for a very interesting story either, especially for Satan, who is, in my opinion, one of the best characters on South Park. So when I watch this episode, it just feels like I'm seeing 4 mini-plots that all have one joke each. Satan is spoiled, Biggie Smalls keeps getting teleported away from the party, the Catholic guys are mad about not being invited, and the Three Stooges can't stop killing everyone.
What'd you do that for? I did it for Dahmer. For Dahmer? Yeah, he likes having sex with dead bodies.
Now you're probably thinking, Slush, that was hilarious, what are you complaining about? And you know what? You're 100% right, that scene was hilarious. In fact, the Three Stooges stuff is all great, especially the bit towards the end where they start attacking each other. And the first time we see Biggie, with the kids scared in the bathroom beforehand, that's all pretty great too. Plus there's that one joke towards the end of the episode, when Satan throws a tantrum because he gets an Acura cake instead of a Ferrari cake. I mean, the cake thing is kind of funny, but the line that absolutely kills me comes from some random dude at the party.
Come on, Helen, let's just go back to hell. I'm suddenly not so hungry for Acura cake.
But while I do enjoy those jokes, the rest of the episode kind of falls flat for me. Like, after you've seen Biggie Smalls get teleported back to South Park once, you've basically seen all that joke has to offer, and the Catholic dudes were honestly never really that funny to me at any point in the episode. So that's basically why I ended up ranking this at the bottom, because outside of the Stooges and a couple of other moments, it just doesn't keep me very engaged. I don't care about Satan being a brat enough to watch it for an entire episode. It's just not enough for me. Also, this episode doesn't even have a proper spooky theme, which I'm a total sucker for, as you'll see throughout this video, so that's not helping its ranking very much. But hey, at least it predicted Diddy, right?
Damn it, what didn't Diddy do?
Now I know that I said I have unconventional South Park opinions, and it's true, I do like Not Without My Anus, I am a very handsome South Park enjoyer, but I'm pretty sure that this one is gonna be less controversial than the last pick, or at least I think. Coming in at number 7 is Sons of Witches.
We're all on the same side, you and I. Let's all stick together let's try.
Do you guys like horror movies? I like horror movies, and I like when my Halloween specials feel like horror movies. So right off the bat, this episode does a few things that I like. First of all, we get to see the return of the spooky intro, which doesn't really affect its rankings, but I like it. But also, in classic horror movie fashion, the episode begins with friends in a convertible driving off to some distant location to go and party. Now I know that this is just a small detail, but it does a lot to put me in the spooky mood I want to be in when I'm watching a Halloween show, so I appreciate it. The main plot of this episode focuses on the men of South Park and a tradition that they call JNC Witch Week, which is literally just a week where they go to the park, get drunk, and smoke a bunch of crack. Yeah, that's right. Cartman's mom was judged for nothing. They've all been doing crack this whole time. Hypocrites, I tell ya, makes me sick. Anyways, this year things don't go as planned during JNC Witch Week because totally not random adult character Chip Duncan pulls out some Necronomicon-ass looking book and ends up turning into a real witch. And you'd think that the focus of this episode would be on the fact that he ends up putting the whole town in danger, which he totally does. He straight up gets on his hobgoblin grind set and starts throwing explosive pumpkins at people and kidnapping children, but instead, the focus of this story is actually directed towards the other men of South Park and how they feel they become the victims of a literal witch pursuit thingy.
There's one awful witch who wants to kill everybody, so now they're coming after all of us. This is like a witch thingy.
It's like a witch pursuit thingy.
The whole joke in this episode is that the guys feel like they're victims of a witch hunt, even though nobody actually cares about them. Now, to be honest, if this entire episode was just this story, I would have probably rated this below Hell on Earth, because even though it's got its moments, it's not one that especially stands out for me. But the other half of this episode is so good that it completely makes up for it. For you see, in this Halloween special, even though there's a literal witch flying through the skies of South Park, there's a much more real monster among them, and that monster is Heidi's inability to manage her time.
Honey, the pumpkin patch opened like an hour ago, and remember how I was saying I want to get there early? What do you think? Great, perfect, let's go to the pumpkin patch. Yep, almost ready. What? Okay, here we go, going to the pumpkin patch. Okay. Oh, I forgot my glitter lip gloss.
The B-plot of this story focuses on Cartman's frustrations with Heidi and how long it takes her to get ready every time they go out. And what I really like about this is that for once, we get to see Cartman in a sympathetic light, because Heidi is doing the classic girlfriend thing of taking 10 million years to get ready. And even though Cartman is totally up by not communicating with her about it, she's also just actually got a problem with taking forever to do everything. So when it causes them to miss the pumpkin patch, which is apparently Cartman's favorite event of the year, it pisses him off. And I mean, it really pisses him off. Like, we get one of the best Cartman faces of all time here.
Yeah, right, like they'll handle anything. Stan's right, this might fall on us.
Okay, so I know I said that Heidi's time management skills were the real monster, but the actual real monster is obviously Eric, because he immediately takes it way too far and loses any sympathy he had going for him. The majority of the B-plot here is that Cartman is too big of a pussy to just break up with Heidi, so he tries to have her killed instead, which is not only a highlight of the episode for me, but a highlight for Heidi's character as well, because she shows herself to be totally selfless in the face of danger.
Eric, did you hear that? Eric? Eric! Oh my god, Eric, are you okay?
To me, this episode isn't top-tier South Park by any means, but it's a very enjoyable watch the whole way through. And I like that we get a moment of Garrison in the town, considering that he was already president by this point of the show. So yeah, all in all, a pretty good episode, but in my opinion, one of the weaker Halloween shows.
Come on out, little girl.
Okay, just a second.
Come on, little girl. Everyone's waiting on you.
Okay, almost ready. Hang on. It's gonna be a while.
Okay, so I'm not gonna make any bold claims this time around. I'm just gonna keep it casual and introduce the next episode. No stirring up any anger from me. This next episode is season 22's The Scoots.
October was always my favorite month. It was that misty season when everyone embraced the weird and scary.
The Scoots is a parody of classic Hitchcock horror movie The Birds, only instead of birds, it's scooters. Basically, scooters start appearing in South Park out of nowhere, and they seem to be mysteriously multiplying. And at first, the only one who's concerned about this is Mr. Mackey. But eventually, the whole town gets into a panic when they realize that the kids will be using them to trick-or-treat this year, meaning that each household will need more candy than ever to avoid their house getting egged. Now, personally, I thought this episode was pretty sharp. It's a clever way to take an existing horror movie concept with all those good spooky vibes and use it to comment on the impact that e-scooters have been having on major cities. Because man oh man, are those things a f***ing nuisance. are tons of great gags in this episode that revolve around the scooters, but where this episode really shines for me is in how it uses Kenny. This is one of the very few South Park episodes where Kenny is a main character, and by that I mean the story actually focuses on him as a protagonist. This time it's because his family is too poor for him to afford a cell phone, which means that he can't use the scooters in town to go trick-or-treating. But since every kid in town is planning to use them, he's left to go trick-or-treating all on his own. And I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty rough to watch Kenny get repeatedly rejected by everyone because he's poor, especially when he looks so happy getting his pail from the Halloween store. Also, shout out to Halloween stores, I found this sweet-ass doormat at one last week. I mean, I didn't buy it, but that's because I bought this dope-ass South Park hat instead. Anyways, because Kenny gets to be the protagonist of this episode, they actually do something that South Park almost never does. They make his voice understandable while he's wearing the hoodie.
Hey, Dave. So listen, I was thinking, maybe I'll trick or treat with you guys this year.
The first time I saw this, I felt like they were breaking a cardinal rule. But given that this episode is Kenny's time in the spotlight, and that he ends up being the hero who saves the day, I actually feel like it's pretty justified. Now, this episode is more than just a Kenny story, because the other half focuses directly on how Mackie and the town are coping with the scooters. The entire third act is absolute insanity. It hinges on the idea that the adults in town will need thousands of dollars worth of candy to deal with the influx of trick-or-treaters, and the way it plays out ends up being hysterical.
Get going, Dad! Don't you give up on me! Move it! Get out of my way! Trick or treat! The hell are you doing, Stotts? Happy Halloween, trick or treat! You're just trying to get our candy for your house! That's not true! You don't even have a costume! Yes, I do. I'm Megan Kelly. Now trick or treat!
Only in South Park could a night of trick-or-treating turn into an absolute war zone like that. But my favorite part of the episode is this montage of Mackie stealing all the scooters with the cool camera angles and the use of silhouettes. This sequence looks cool as f***. It reminds me of like Donkey Kong Country Returns or something. And it just goes to show that there's so much love put into these episodes even 22 years into the show's run. At the end of the episode, Mackie and Kenny team up to take out the cell towers and save the day. We get a nice speech about Kenny from Mr. Mackey, we get a guy in a Jason mask that does the slasher flick head tilt, and we get a better mix of social commentary and horror movie parody than we did in Sons of Witches. So overall, it's just a great episode that I'd highly recommend checking out. Plus, it gives Kenny a happy ending.
And as for me, I was able to spend the rest of the night with my friends because we were all equal again.
Trick or treat.
Trick or treat.
Damn, we're already at number 5? This list is going by fast. Now listen, before I announce this next episode, I just want to say that I'm just as surprised as you are that it's ranked this high. So don't look at me like I'm crazy, because we're both on the same side here. Even I think this is crazy. Or at least I would have, until I sat down and rewatched the Tegridy Farms Halloween special.
Oh wow, the Halloween special! I'm so excited to try it!
Now, I don't know if people's minds have changed over the last 4 to 5 years, but I remember people really not liking the Tegridy Farm stuff when it originally aired, and I was definitely one of those people. But after rewatching this episode, I gotta say, it's pretty good. This one has 2 main stories going on that are more or less completely independent of each other. On one side, you have Randy versus Shelly in a dispute over her hatred of weed, and on the other side, you have Butters being the victim of an abusive relationship with the mummy. Yeah, this is a pretty weird one. The Tegridy Farm stuff is largely just your typical Randy shenanigans, but with a spooky twist. The episode starts with Randy confronting Shelly about her marijuana problem.
Okay, who's your idol? Who do you most look up to in the whole world?
Serena Williams.
Total stoner, high as a kite, every tennis match.
No, she's not.
You don't know that, Shelly. Now you're just making assumptions.
Naturally, this only pisses off Shelly more, so after reaching a breaking point, she mixes a bunch of deadly chemicals together and throws the concoction onto Randy's Halloween crop. But by some miracle, the weed survives her attack, and because Randy and Towley are such degenerates, they end up selling and smoking the stuff anyways, causing the townspeople to turn into plant zombies.
Hey, you all right there, buddy? Whoa, dude, do you see that?
I really enjoy the fact that this episode shines a spotlight on Shelly, because I feel like she's one of the more underutilized characters on the show. And not only does she act as a good foil to Randy here, but her actions at the end of the episode demonstrate that she's a much kinder person than she seems like on the outside. Anyways, as this is all happening, archaeologist Butters makes his way through a museum where he's collecting stamps from each exhibit. And when he gets to that last one, a familiar character emerges from the shadows to warn him that collecting that final stamp will bring a curse upon him.
That's the mummy of Tuktan Ra. You don't want to put that stamp in your sticker book. Nobody puts that stamp in their sticker book.
This curse is, of course, an abusive relationship that haunts him for the rest of the episode, complete with tons of gaslighting and turning all of Butters' peers against him. Honestly, it's a pretty great metaphor when you think about it, since the trauma of going through an abusive relationship like that really can feel like a curse that haunts you. And it's stuff like that that makes me like this episode so much, because I find it very poignant and also very funny. Like, the way they depicted the mummy's abusive qualities was so on point. Stuff like having the cops side with him instead of Butters, or even just the way it all ends with Butters apologizing despite the fact that he never did anything wrong. I also really enjoy how the Randy storyline seemed to mirror this through his relationship with Shelly, how he tries to gaslight her, constantly insisting that she's the one with the problem, and even taking their dispute to the cops, where she gets locked up in a cell with Butters. And of course, both storylines end with the abuse victims committing a selfless act to exonerate their abusers, Butters with his apology, and Shelly with her cure thing. Now, all that said, this episode is definitely not perfect. I think that Randy can get pretty annoying at times, especially when he's out in the field screaming with Towelie. And while I do enjoy the abusive mummy stuff, it does feel a bit redundant after having an entire season focused around Cartman's abusive relationship with Heidi. There were definitely elements in there that felt a bit rehashed, if you know what I mean. But despite its flaws, I just found that the humor was extremely on point throughout the entire episode. I loved PC Principal's Halloween costume rant.
Now, I don't want to see any sombreros! Alright, if I see any Mexican sombreros or anyone dressed like a Native American, I'm gonna lose my
I loved how Eric ripped on Kenny for being poor like in the older episodes.
Anything depicting people from low-income households?
No Halloween for you, Kenny.
I thought the mummy stuff with Butters was all very funny, and I thought the reveal that Randy and Towelie were just hallucinating the plant zombies was hysterical. This is definitely an episode that was carried by its humor because structurally, it's nothing special. In fact, it almost felt like they couldn't decide which storyline to make the episode about, so they just did both. But it ends up being a very fun watch anyways, so I ain't complaining. I'm just happy that I enjoyed an episode that Trey Parker clearly wrote for himself.
Did everyone enjoy the Halloween special?
No, Randy. Only you did.
Oh, well, that was pretty much my target audience anyway.
Alright, for this next episode, I'm gonna introduce it the only way I know how.
Corn powers vitalize!
Monkey,
David,
Fieldy,
Head, Jonathan,
Form of corn!
So we're finally at our first old South Park episode, a time when the show was still finding its footing and coming into its own. And I like me some old South Park. I like how absurd and savage it can be, despite maintaining an innocent quality to the boys. Now this episode's plot is pretty simple. Pirate ghosts are haunting the town of South Park during Halloween, and Corn is there to help solve this groovy mystery. And that's all there really is to it. Oh, and the boys want to dig up Kyle's dead grandma.
Okay, so we figured out how to scare the 5th graders. How? What's the scariest thing we could get? Spooky spider? No, a dead body. Yeah, fat ass, a dead body. To be really scary, it would have to be real. Yeah, fat ass, it has to be real to be scary. We're gonna dig up Kyle's dead grandma. Yeah, fat ass, we're gonna dig up Kyle's dead grandma!
Even though the story is fairly simple here, it never feels uninteresting. And I think the reason for that is because the humor feels very well paced and the running gags are all well implemented with the plot. Stuff like everyone making fun of Kenny's Halloween costume, despite the fact that it's actually pretty kick-ass and everyone else's costumes suck. Also, they just keep throwing it in the background, probably because the animation is so sweet. Or, Cartman being obsessed with Christmas the whole time, even though Halloween hasn't happened yet.
Hey, you guys, you know what time of year it is? Of course, dumbass, it's Halloween. That's right, and that means only 2 more months till Christmas. I shouted lovely weather for sleigh ride together with you, and you, and...
Eric, your little friends are here.
Mom, you want to see what I want for Christmas?
Eric, it's only Halloween.
That's only 72 shopping days left for you. Silver bells, it's Christmas time again.
There's just so much to love about this episode. And if anything, the Corn mystery stuff is probably the weakest part in my opinion. Not that it's bad, but when it switches to that Scooby-Doo vibe, it almost feels like the episode slows down in its pace. Probably because parodying something like Scooby-Doo can't match the chaotic energy of a South Park episode, which kind of makes the tempo just feel off during those segments. But otherwise, the story is endearing, the jokes are hilarious, plus it's got one of my all-time favorite bits with the funeral home guys.
Now, Alan will demonstrate what having sex with a dead body might sound like.
Excuse me, how is this helping?
You could just tell that this is Trey and Matt having a blast when writing the episode. So yeah, all in all, banger of an episode, and one that has a truly enlightening message for its audience at the end.
You all perceived us to be mean, evil people, but really we're just normal guys. And we all perceive pirate ghosts to be real when actually they were just cotton swabs. So I guess the lesson is, it's easy to perceive something some way and then be wrong. So we all need to learn to be a little less perceptive.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it, you know it's gonna be a good episode when it's a parody of The Shining.
What are you doing, Shelly?
Nothing, Dad. Go back to killing the family.
Okay. Stan! Stanley boy, I'm coming!
Doing a Shining parody is like a cheat code for Halloween specials. It's basically guaranteed to be awesome. But this episode does it with a twist. Thanks to Randy, the Marsh family have become the new owners of a Blockbuster, which was already ancient at the time of this episode, but is now so old that I'm willing to bet some of you watching this have never even seen one in person. This Blockbuster is basically the hotel from The Shining. It's haunted, it possesses Randy and drives him towards killing his family, and the people outside are afraid of it.
That old creepy place. I saw someone in the window there.
Okay, that last part isn't actually from The Shining, but it's funny. As Randy goes crazy, Stan is supposed to be trick-or-treating with his friends, but because Randy won't let him go just in case business picks up, he has to join them via FaceTime, which leads to this ridiculous setup where Stan is on Kyle's iPad attached to a skateboard, which the boys go through all the trouble of putting together because they're doing a group costume of the Avengers.
Trick or treat.
Oh, wow, it's the Avengers!
That's right.
Oh, and Honey Boo Boo! Kids, come see the green Honey Boo Boo costume!
Now, the twist of this episode comes in how they use FaceTime. Stan spends the entire episode almost exclusively engaging with people through an iPad, and because this is South Park, where everyone is retarded, people keep treating the iPad screen like it's actually Stan. Like when they run into criminals, the kids escape, but the iPad gets kidnapped and thrown into the countryside like they're dumping a body. And when a couple finds the iPad that still has Stan on it for some reason, they bring it to the hospital where it's treated like an actual person.
They said they were heading to the big party at the community center. You have to stop it. My friends are in trouble. Stan! Guys, you're okay. What happened to you? It's all right. It's just a scratch.
It's just beautiful. It's that same absurdity that I was talking about that I love to have in my South Park. Eventually, the cops visit Stan in the hospital and ask for his help to catch the criminals, which they do by attaching the iPad to an officer dressed in a Gangnam Style costume. This is supposed to be like an undercover operation, but in the middle of the operation, Randy takes over the iPad and somehow goes on a rampage as Gangnam Stein.
Ah! Look at the people watching movies on their Xbox! Ah! 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 Streaming Halloween 4! Ha ha ha!
Now, Randy being Gangnam Stein is like a perfect metaphor for his inability to let go of the Blockbuster, because by becoming a Frankenstein monster, he's literally becoming an old monster movie, which is the exact kind of thing that people would rent at some old-ass Blockbuster.
Renting DVDs is more ancient than Madonna's boobs.
Ew! That's enough, Stanley! Ew! Gross!
Eventually, the episode ends with the police catching the criminals and the Blockbuster burning down, leaving Randy outside doing his now iconic frozen Jack Torrance face. There's a lot to love about this episode. Randy is obviously hilarious. The FaceTime gags are the exact perfect kind of stupid that you want to see in a South Park episode. And I just love all the jokes about how kids find the Blockbuster to be like an old haunted house. Also, everybody thinking that Cartman is Bruce Vilanch instead of the Hulk is pretty hilarious too.
Trick or treat. Trick or treat.
Oh, wow! Look, honey, it's Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and Bruce Vilanch!
I'm not Bruce Vilanch!
Oh, what are you supposed to be? Oh, right, you're supposed to be that,
The Incredible...
Right, the Incredible Chaz Bono.
But without a doubt, my absolute favorite part of this episode actually comes from the cops. Specifically, how they're afraid to correct Detective Yates when he's so obviously wrong about everything.
We can't cancel the Monster Mash, it's Halloween night! It's the Monster Mash's biggest night of the year!
The Monster Mash is only on Halloween.
We got this son of a bitch.
Wait, wasn't that Peterson in there?
This is easily one of the best Halloween specials they've ever made, and even though The Simpsons did a Shining parody first, they never did it like this. The following segment is brought to you in spooky vision. Be warned, all scenes will be accompanied by pictures of Sneeko.
Stop screwing around, dude. We're all gonna go meet at the store later to buy pumpkins to carve. Oh, then we can enter the carving contest. I'll run home and get money from Mother. Do you guys need some too?
I don't know why, but I feel like this is the most memorable Halloween special in all of South Park. Like, it's the one I always remembered seeing as a kid when Comedy Network started playing Halloween specials. Yeah, that's right, I said Comedy Network, the Canadian equivalent of Comedy Central. And the reason I think it's so memorable is because it's just such an original concept. I mean, where else are you gonna find a murdering goldfish? Plus the music, creepy as shit, and is forever connected to the episode in my mind.
It's not closer. I'm just seeing things.
Anyways, in this episode, the story is that Stan gets a spooky fish as a gift, but the fish is evil and keeps killing people. Also, there's a parallel universe version of Cartman that has a goatee. Like with the Corn episode, this one doesn't have the most elaborate story, but the jokes and creepy atmosphere more than make up for it. And I do gotta say, as far as spooky vibes go, this one does the best job of every Halloween special. And I'm not just saying that because Barbra Streisand's face is plastered throughout the entire thing. This episode is great because it introduces two characters that never fail to crack me up. Good Cartman and Aunt Flo.
Whoa, what's wrong with your head? Why are you shaking like that? Dude, that's not cool. She's got Parkinson's disease. Oh, sweet. Check it out, you guys. You don't even have to put a quarter in her.
Now I got some beef with the way Stan's family treats Aunt Flo. They all seem to dislike her for whatever reason, and obviously she's supposed to be analogous to a menstrual cycle or whatever, but honestly, I think they're all just being haters. Aunt Flo is dope as shit. She brings presents for Stan and Shelly when she comes, and not just lame presents either, they're actually pretty sweet, like a stereo system in the 90s. And you're telling me that Aunt Flo doesn't even have a phone destroyer card? That she's not even in any of the games? Most underrated character in the entire show. Don't at me, I'm already dead on this hill. Now as for Good Cartman, I don't know how else to say this, but there's just something extremely funny about seeing Cartman be so absolutely insanely nice.
Hi there, folks. This is a heck of a storm out now. Thought maybe you could use some provisions. There's some candles and food in there. It ain't much, but it should get you through the night. Take care, folks. I've got other houses to get to.
The whole thing in this episode is that Stan's fish and Good Cartman are from the same parallel dimension, where everything is the opposite of what it should be. And throughout the episode, Good Cartman and regular Cartman keep switching places, leaving the boys very confused. Because one minute he'll be singing a song about how the guys are his best friends, and then the other minute he'll be an annoying asshole that can't stop saying hella.
Now zap his hella ass back to your hella universe. Stop saying hella, Cartman!
Now, as much as I love all the nice Cartman bits, the character who really steals the show for me in this episode is actually Sharon, because this is easily one of the best Sharon appearances in the entire show. Usually she's just used as like a moral voice and not really for comedy, but here, she's hilarious. Because every single time that Stan's fish kills someone, she thinks he did it. So to hide the evidence, she buries all the bodies in the backyard, and at one point she even locks Officer Barbrady in the basement.
Hey, why is the basement door locked?
Crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. My math has gone away.
But my favorite thing about her is the way she just goes into extreme denial anytime a body shows up. It's like 1 part unconditional love for Stan and 1 part mental breakdown.
I've got such a handsome boy, such a good boy.
Also, I don't know why, but I really enjoy how she flicks the rats away when she's dragging Kenny's body to the backyard. Now, as much as I love this episode, I do have to admit that the third act kind of has some lazy writing in it. Like, for example, when evil Stan and Kyle show up to bring back their version of Cartman, they clearly don't have anything on them but their clothes and goatees. But then, in the blink of an eye, evil Kyle suddenly has a gun that conveniently teleports anyone it shoots back to their dimension.
Don't touch me! What the hell's going on? Cartman never hits us. All right, just stand there, Cartman. This gentrification gun will send you back to our universe.
Now, I know that this is supposed to be a Star Trek parody, but it still feels incredibly jank that the gun just appears out of nowhere and acts as this extremely convenient plot device. And the same can be said about the very ending bit when Good, Stan, and Kyle get a hold of the gun and use it to send back their version of Cartman.
Time is running out. You'll have to destroy us both. What? It's the only way you can be sure. We have to both go for the good of the world. You guys are hella stupid.
Like, why is Good Cartman surprised when regular Cartman says something altruistic? And why does Good Cartman say, screw you guys, when he gets sent back? I mean, I know it's done to trick us or whatever, but in this case it only works because they make Good Cartman break character in the process, which is generally not how you want your scripts to unfold. But all that aside, this is still an all-time favorite for me, and it's easily one of the funniest entries on this list.
Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. If that mockingbird don't sing, Mama's gonna bury it in the backyard.
Well, here we are, number 1, which means that I don't have to do any kind of dramatic build-up this time around since there's only one possible episode it could be, which honestly just makes my life easier. I swear it takes way too long to write these blurbs. No wonder the white thumbnail channels don't bother putting in any effort. Yeah, that's right, I'm still firing shots at those guys 3 weeks later. Got a problem with that? Anyways, the number 1 episode is Pink Eye.
Ow! You bit my arm! Oh good, Kenny's back to normal.
This episode starts with a space station falling out of the sky and landing directly on Kenny. And because I forgot to mention this in the last segment, I just want to point out that technically, both Pink Eye and Spooky Fish start with something falling from space. Except in Spooky Fish, that something immediately dies and has no relevance to the rest of the episode. But yeah, just a fun thing I noticed. Basically, the story here is that Kenny dies and is revived by accident when the embalming fluid at the morgue is mixed with Worcestershire sauce, which just makes everything taste so English.
You know, I think death is least funny when it happens to a child.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Marty, do you have to put that stuff on everything?
I don't know, it just makes everything taste so English.
For whatever reason, this brings Kenny back to life as a zombie, and from there he starts infecting everyone that he bites. But because the adults in this town are dumber than Aiden Ross, they think that the zombies are just a bad case of pink eye. So nobody really does anything about it until Chef figures out what's actually going on.
Think about it. Dead people getting up and walking around. And Tina Yothers come to town? Coincidence? Oh, I don't think so.
I don't even know who Tina Yothers is, but I still find that joke pretty funny. Now, I gotta say that for South Park Season 1, this is a pretty gory episode. People get their arms ripped off, zombies are hacked into pieces with chainsaws. They really made it Halloween appropriate this time around, which blends very nicely with all the traditional Season 1 elements that can also be found in this episode. Stuff like the Kenny being poor jokes.
Too bad drinking scotch isn't a paying job, or else Kenny's dad would be a millionaire. I say your dad would be a millionaire, get it? Kenny! If family's poor, Kenny! If family's poor!
The Cartman's mom jokes.
I found it! I found it! What? See, Cartman? Your mom is on the cover!
And of course, there's nothing quite like that early era Cartman who seemingly doesn't know anything about Hitler but loves him all the same. I find that there are a lot of little things that I really like about this episode, like how Kyle is constantly changing costumes, or how Wendy wins the costume competition even though she's wearing the exact same Chewbacca costume as everyone else. I also like how Kenny chooses to hang out with the boys even though he's a zombie and could easily just bite them if he wanted to, but he doesn't. Because he loves them. Also, I don't know where else I'm gonna get a chance to say this, but I really enjoy that this fat dude seems super excited about giving the boys actual good candy because he clearly understands the immense value of deliciousness.
Trick or treat!
Hope you kids like chocolate peanut butter cream puffies. Oh! Get it off! Get it off!
Now that's what I call positive fat representation. This episode is just full of so many great moments that make it the #1 Halloween special to me. And honestly, when I started rewatching these episodes to do my ranking video, I wasn't expecting to like this one the best. I kind of figured that Season 1 was a bit too crude and rough around the edges to be this good. But god damn it, I loved every second of this. From the Worcestershire sauce hotline having a zombie department, to the fact that we get a top tier chef classic that parodies Thriller.
I'm gonna make love even when I'm dead. My body might get cold, but it's always hot in my bed.
Yes, truly my opinions are legendary, and this is the best South Park Halloween episode of all time, and there's no discussion to be had about it. But just in case, what's your ranking look like? Did you hate the fact that I put Hell on Earth 2006 at the bottom? Let me know in the comments below. Or don't, you know, whatever. I just need to end this video now, so bye!